a 50-person Japanese startup, just matched the most powerful AI model on the planet. And the implications for a $965 billion IPO are devastating. Welcome back to AI Assets. Today, we are breaking down the story that Wall Street is not pricing correctly yet, how Sakana AI's new system, called Fugu, just demonstrated that Anthropic's entire competitive moat may be far thinner than the market believes, and what it means for every investor tracking the AI frontier race right now. Let us get into it. Here is the setup. Anthropic is preparing for one of the most anticipated IPOs in history. The company confidentially filed at a valuation of $965 billion, nearly $1 trillion, in June 2026. That valuation rests on a single core argument. Anthropic builds the best, safest, most capable frontier AI models in the world, and enterprises will pay a premium for that quality. Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are those models. And right now, both of them are suspended by a US government order, locked away from the majority of the global market. Into that vacuum, a 50-person startup from Tokyo just walked in and said, "We matched them," without using them. Here is exactly what Sakana built and why it matters. Sakana AI was founded by David Ha, former research director at Google Brain, and Lion Jones, one of the 8 original co-authors of the 2017 paper, "Attention is All You Need." That paper literally invented the transformer architecture that every major AI model in the world is built on today. These are not amateurs. Their system is called Fugu, and it is not a single frontier model. It is a multi-agent orchestration system, a framework that coordinates multiple, smaller, existing AI models and routes problems intelligently between them to produce outputs that rival or beat the most powerful single models on the planet. The benchmark numbers are concrete and verified. Fugu Ultra scores 93.2 on Live Code Bench. Anthropic's Fable 5 scores 89.8. Fugu Ultra scores 95.5 on GPQA Diamond, the graduate-level scientific reasoning benchmark. Anthropic's Mythos Preview scores 94.6. And critically, Fugu achieves this without a single Anthropic model in its pool. It uses open-source and non-US models exclusively. That is not a minor technical footnote. That is a fundamental challenge to the entire premise of frontier AI investing. Now the investor context, and this is where it gets serious. Anthropic's $965 billion valuation is built on what investors call a technical moat. The idea that Anthropic's models are so far ahead of alternatives that enterprises will pay $200 per month, that governments will sign exclusive contracts, and that no competitor can replicate the quality for years. Fugu just showed that the moat is not as wide as the market thinks. But here is the deeper issue. Anthropic's models are currently blocked by US government order from full global deployment. In the window where Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are unavailable to most of the world, a Japanese company, one that is not subject to US export controls, built a system that matches them. Sakana's message was direct. They said Fugu exists specifically to give countries and enterprises a frontier-capable alternative that does not depend on US government permissions to access. For Anthropic's IPO, this creates 2 immediate problems. First, the international revenue story weakens. If enterprise customers outside the US can now access Fable 5-level performance through Fugu without the export control risk, Anthropic's international TAM, total addressable market, just shrunk. Second, the moat narrative is cracked. IPO valuations near $1 trillion require investors to believe in durable, defensible, competitive advantage. A 50-person Japanese startup matching your flagship model in the same week it is unavailable is the worst possible optics for that argument. Here is what the market is completely missing. Everyone is covering this as a benchmark story. It is actually an architecture story. And the architecture argument is far more dangerous for Anthropic's valuation than the benchmark numbers. Fugu is not a model. It is a router. It takes existing models, cheaper, open source, non-US, and combines them with intelligent orchestration to produce outputs that match or exceed the most expensive closed models on the market. If orchestration systems can reliably match frontier models, the entire investment thesis for closed frontier AI labs collapses. You no longer need to spend $10 billion to train a frontier model. You need to build a smarter router. That is the real disruption. Not that Fugu is better than Fable 5, but that Fugu proves the value is moving up the stack, away from model training and toward orchestration, deployment, and inference infrastructure. The winners in that world are not Anthropic and OpenAI. They are the inference platforms, companies like Baseten, CoreWeave, and the infrastructure layer beneath every model. Nvidia wins regardless. But the pure-play frontier model labs face an existential question about their trillion-dollar valuations. What happens next? Here is your concrete roadmap. The first event to watch is Anthropic's IPO prospectus. When the S1 becomes public, look specifically at how Anthropic characterizes its competitive moat. Any language about orchestration systems, multi-agent architectures, or benchmark methodology will signal whether Anthropic acknowledges the Fugu threat or ignores it. The second event is the US government's review of the Fable 5 and Mythos 5 suspension. The longer the suspension runs, the more time companies like Sakana have to capture enterprise customers who cannot wait. Every additional week of suspension is a market share gift to non-US AI providers. The third event is Sakana's own funding trajectory. The company has raised approximately $200 million to date. If a major sovereign wealth fund, particularly in Asia or the Middle East, steps in with a large round post-Fugu, it signals that governments are actively investing in US independent AI infrastructure. Watch for a funding announcement in the next 60 to 90 days. The smart positioning here is straightforward. If you believe the value in AI is shifting from model training to orchestration and inference, the infrastructure layer is where you want to be. Baseten, CoreWeave, and Nvidia all benefit from a world where more models compete at lower margins. The frontier model labs, Anthropic, OpenAI, face growing pressure to justify valuations that assume permanent technical leadership. Fugu did not kill Anthropic, but it proved the crown is not as secure as a $965 billion valuation suggests. If this gave you a real edge today, hit subscribe to AI Assets. We publish daily analysis on AI stocks, frontier model developments, and the investment angles the market has not priced in yet. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think Anthropic's IPO valuation is justified at $965 billion? Or does Fugu change the calculus for you as an investor? We read every comment. See you in the next one.